Okay, how to hot spoon shine, less the spoon, polish your tall boots. Things you're gonna need are a 100% cotton t-shirt, hopefully just a plain t-shirt. I bought a bunch of plain cotton t-shirts for this particularly, but an old one will work. A small dish with water, a cheap ladies nylon. You can buy like the cheapo ones from Walgreens. Any of this you can get at Walgreens or a CVS or whatever. Boot polish. I use an applicator brush strictly for the crease between your boot and the sole of your boot. A lighter. I use Bic lighters. Some people find the long, clicky ones easier because you have less chance of burning your fingers. Scissor to cut up the t-shirt, and I like using rubber gloves or vinyl gloves to keep the polish off of my hands, and tall boots. Alright, so the first thing I did was cut up the t-shirt. I have kind of some big chunks, nothing too precise, and then a couple strips I cut out of them. You won't use the strips until later, so those can get set aside. So you will need your large chunk of t-shirt, or larger chunk of t-shirt, your water, and your polish to begin with. First things first, make sure the boots are relatively clean, no large chunks of dirt or whatnot. These have been dusted off pretty well. And so we will start, I usually start with the toe caps and then move on to the calf and shaft of your boot. Remember, when you put polish on, do not put polish on the inside of the calf, or even I don't do the inside of the heel or the mid section of the foot, just because you don't want to rub black boot polish all over your horse or your saddle. Okay, so I'm going to put my gloves on and crack open the polish. Alright, so this might get a little difficult trying to tape and do this at the same time. I will do my best. Okay, so I have my gloves on. I take my chunk of t-shirt that I have and wrap it around the end of a finger. You can use 2 fingers if you want. I usually just use 1. And what you're going to do is you're going to get a decent amount of polish on the ends. If you overdo it, it's okay. But there we go. So we get a decent amount of polish on the end of my cloth covered finger, and what you're going to do is on your toe cap, you're going to rub the polish in small circles all over the toe cap. So let me see if I can balance this and do it. Okay. So polish on boot and small circles. Just really over the toe cap. We'll do the rest of the boot later. If you need to get more polish on, that is fine. You can be pretty liberal with it because you want good full coverage all over the toe cap. It can be pretty thick. If you're just starting with a new pair of boots, you could probably put it on even thicker. These boots have been polished once before, so they don't quite need as much as I would say a new pair would. Okay, and then this is what the applicator is for. I'm going to put that down because you want to get polish. I don't know if you can really see very well, but you want to get polish along the crease of your boot as well. So I'm going to do that by getting some polish on the edge of this applicator brush, and then I'll use it to push that polish in to the crease of my boot. If you get a little on this edge of the sole, that's fine. Just really want to make sure you get in there. So that you don't have a funky white line or lighter line on your nicely polished black boots. It is a good idea to have a towel or some sort of drop cloth down when you're polishing your boots, so that it's pretty inevitable that you'll get polish on the floor or surface that you are doing this on. You can kind of see it's flaking off over here. So if you are trying to protect any surface or whatnot, want to be careful with that. Also, wear kind of cruddy clothes that you don't care if you get polish on either. It's a little difficult to get out. Okay. So, I don't know if you can see that very well. Maybe better lighting here. So, there I have the polish pushed in. So last layer I melted with the lighter, and then this layer you're going to, the last layer, you're going to just do polish on top of everything. Good. Another layer of polish, small circles all over, light pressure, rubbing it in. Okay. Gonna do, it's the last layer I'm gonna do before buffing the toe cap, and so I'm rubbing that all over, small circles. Alright, looks pretty good, and I don't have to quite do as much on mine because again they have been polished before, so it's a little easier. It keeps getting easier. You have to do less and less as you keep up with polishing your boots. So that was the last layer of polish that I put on the toe cap, and I'm gonna go ahead and let that sit and dry because right now the toe cap's a little damp just from the amount of polish being damp, and then also a little bit of water. So you're gonna set that aside, let the toe cap dry now with that layer of polish on it, and I usually go ahead and I do my second toe cap while I'm letting this one dry. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here with this second boot, making sure boot is relatively clean. Start on the toe cap, minimal 4 or 5 layers of polish, water, melt, and then the last layer I just put polish on and let the polish dry. Alright, so I have both of my toe caps finished. I did this boot first, and this one I just finished. So this one is now going to dry while I buff the left toe. Try not to drop these on the ground as I adjust. So I'm going to hold that one, and this one can go away for a minute. Okay. You can wear the boots while you buff, or at least with the toe cap, I can kind of wedge the boot kind of between my knees and hold it that way. And then the other thing, when you're between your layers that you're doing, I would say you want to work relatively quickly, so that when you're doing the water and the melting and then the next layer, the polish doesn't get too hard. It makes it hard to work with. So you want to work relatively quickly, putting your layers on, and then the last layer you can set aside and let dry. Alright, so last layer of polish went on and dried, so now it kind of looks like it normally would if you're just quickly polishing your boots. And what you're going to do is now you're going to take a strip of t-shirt, and you'll kind of hold it in both hands, and you'll buff across the toe cap with the t-shirt, and this will start kind of bringing out the shine. It'll smooth out the polish that's dried, and you'll start getting a pretty okay shine on that. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do this while filming, or if that's even possible, so let's see if I can manage this. I don't think I can. But basically, so you're going to hold the t-shirt on either side with your hands and kind of pull down while you're going back and forth across the toe cap. So if I was holding the other side, I'd kind of be doing this. Back and forth, apply some pressure to smooth it out. You'll start seeing the shine. And then I will show you what's next. Alright, so this is the shine that you get when you just use the t-shirt, and you want to kind of, you have to kind of angle across so you can kind of get the edge of your boot buffed as well, so it's not just the top, but also you want to try to get the edges as well down on the sides. The secret to getting really, 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 really shiny boots are nylons. this really buffs out any of the lines that even a t-shirt will leave from the fibers. So you're going to do basically the same exact thing that you did with the t-shirt, you will do with this nylon. So you're going to hold each side of the nylon and you're going to go back and forth across the toe cap while pressing down on it tightly, and that will bring out the super shine on your toe cap. Okay, and this is, I don't know if you can really tell very well in the video, but this is much shinier now than it was just after I did the t-shirt buff. So this is what the nylon buff, you're going to start to be able to see a little bit more of a reflection. I do apologize for my poor lighting in my living room. So again, same thing as when you did the t-shirt cloth with the nylon. You might have to kind of turn your boot so you can get the edge and across the very tip of your toe as well to buff that. So if I set this down over here, and then, so this is your dried polish boot, and that is your fully buffed boot. Let me buff this one with the t-shirt, and then maybe you'll be able to see the difference between a t-shirt and the nylon. So this is after I've used the t-shirt on the dried polish. So this is the half that I've used the t-shirt on, and this is this half with the dried polish on it. So I'll keep going. Okay, so this is the difference. This boot has been buffed with a t-shirt and the nylon, and this boot has just been buffed with the t-shirt. It's kind of hard to tell, but you can sort of make out that this one is shinier than this one. I will finish with the nylon on this toe cap, and then I will show you how to do the rest of your boot. Alright, so both of my toe caps are done now. You can kind of tell that they're pretty shiny now compared to what they were for sure. Another way I guess I can show you is that the calf of my boot, gosh, I wish I had better lighting. So the calf of this boot was similar to what the toe of my boot looked like beforehand, and now it's pretty shiny on the toe there. Okay, so for the rest of your boot, I usually do not as many layers of the polish, water, and heat than I do on the toe cap. I would say probably maybe 3 layers minimum on your calf and ankle of the boot. When I do polish down the front, I kind of pretend that there's like an invisible line straight down the middle, and apply polish from the toe cap. If you get a little new polish on your shiny toe cap, that's okay. It'll just buff off anyways when you go to buff the rest of it. So I usually do up over probably like the first 3 laces on either side of the boot, including kind of the inside arch of the boot about halfway back, and then all of the outside of the boot to the back of the heel, and then up the outside all the way up to the outside of the boot. And what you'll do is the same method, only less layers. So polish, water, heat, and then do that about 3 times. And the same thing as with the toe cap. On the last layer, you just use the polish and let the polish dry, and then buff with the t-shirt first and then the nylon. I guess you could cut it into sections when you do the rest of the boot. I find it easier to just do the whole thing all at once. I have, because I don't use the long handled lighter and I use the short Bic ones, I have 2 Bic lighters because you'll heat half of the boot and then the top of the lighter gets really hot So then I'll switch to a second lighter that's cooler, so I don't burn my thumb when I use it. And it's the same thing you do on the toe cap, just in less layers on the rest of the boot. I would say it's probably easier when you go to buff the boot to actually wear the boot. So then when you press down, you have something to press down against, unless you have really well-fitting trees, boot trees. So then your the sides don't crumple in when you're buffing. So I will do 3 layers on the rest of my boot. So I'll do polish, water, heat, polish, water, heat, polish, and then let the polish dry, and then buff with the t-shirt, and then buff with the nylon. I will do this boot and show you what it looks like in comparison to the not polished boot. Okay. Oh, hey, the flash turned on. Perfect. Okay. I resorted to wearing mine to get the polish on because it's just easier. When I press against it, then it doesn't collapse, and I can make sure that I push up against where there might be a crease, or like through the ankle where it's really broken in now. I can kind of keep that taut, so there's less wrinkles. So as you're putting the polish on and rubbing the water in and all that good stuff, you just want to, I guess, just be aware that wherever there is creasing in your boots, it's probably not going to ever get as shiny as the toe of your boots. So just strictly because there's a lot of movement, and the polish will crack there. So you might not get as good of a shine across maybe right behind the toe cap where the leather creases, and through the ankle where there's a lot of creasing. And then when you go over if your boot has any sort of metal bits, or like here I've got the little Ariat signal there, just go right over it with the polish, because the polish will rub right off when you buff it. So don't worry about kind of trying to go around things like that. Just go straight over it. It'll be fine. Okay, so I will check in once I get this boot done. Alright, so I just finished putting the last layer of polish on my left boot. And you can see it's kind of matted looking, a little bit different than the right boot, which doesn't have anything done to it yet, aside from the toe cap. So I'm going to go ahead and let this left boot, this layer of polish, dry while I do the other boot and put the layers on that one. And then same thing as with the toe cap. Once I'm done putting the layers on the right boot, I will come back and buff the left boot, first with the t-shirt and then with the nylon, and then you should have super shiny boots. I will check in again once I get the right boot done, and I'm going to buff the last one. Alright, so now my right boot has been polished, and polished, water, heat, polish, water, heat, polish. So I just did like 2 layers and then the third one. I'm getting away with doing less because, again, I've polished them before. So the wonderful thing is the more you stay on it, the less you have to do later. So I'm going to let this boot dry, and I'm going to start buffing this one. The buffing shouldn't take too terribly long. Again, so let me get rid of this one. Again, you're going to do t-shirt buff and then nylon buff, and then hopefully they end up just as shiny as your toe caps are. I will check in when I buff this one. So in some spots, like the inside of the boot here and the inside of the arch, it's hard to kind of get the buff cloth in there, so you can kind of just keep it kind of wrapped around your fingers, and you can kind of lightly rub in there to buff it. If you it is harder to get the straight cloth across there, so you can kind of just use your fingers in the cloth to kind of buff that way, to get the harder to reach areas. The biggest thing, again, when you're buffing, whether you're doing it this way or whether you're pulling across the whole thing, make sure there's no creases in your buff cloth against the leather, because it will leave a giant streak through your polish. So flat, 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 as flat as you can with the cloth to make sure that you don't leave any streaks in your polish. It does get kind of hard, again, when your boots are super broken in like mine are. It's really hard in the ankles to get the creases super shiny. You'll kind of see that sometimes the polish will flake off a little bit. That is to be expected. It's just the polish won't sit in highly moving areas or where there's a lot of creasing. So don't worry about that. That's pretty normal. But the rest of the boot you want to try to get as smooth and shiny. So like this flat part of the calf is pretty easy to get shiny. And then up here where it gets close to the crease of where my swagger tab is, harder to get the buff cloth in there, so I'll just kind of use my finger in the rag to kind of get into those creases there. Okay, this looks pretty good. And yeah, so t-shirt first, so you can kind of see they're a little bit shinier now with just the t-shirt there. And then I will use the nylon next to get it really shiny. Super quick comparison. There is the dried polished boot, and this is the t-shirt buff boot. I think you can kind of tell that it's a little bit, just a little bit shinier. And I will finish up with nylon across this one and show you the finished product. Alright, so on the right boot is dried polish, and on the left boot is buffed polish. You can see that the left one is shinier than the right one. So I'll go ahead and finish up by buffing this right boot with the t-shirt and then the nylon. And then I'll show you the finished product on both boots. Looking pretty good so far though. Alright, so here are my finished polished boots. They're pretty shiny. I'm happy the way they turned out. They're just my schooling boots, so I don't put a ton of effort into them. My show boots, I would want them to be even shinier than this, but this works for today. The last thing I would say would have to happen on these, if they were my show boots, or tomorrow I'm going out in these boots, so I need to just do an edging on the heels and the sole of the boots. So you can see the front of the toe cap where it got some polish on it is black, and then the rest of the boot is sort of lighter due to sand and dirt discoloration. So I just do an edging on the boot to make the heel and the rest of the sole edge black, so then it would blend better and you don't see that white ring around the edge of it. But yeah, so that's it. I would say timeline wise, you should plan on having a good hour, if not more than an hour, to do those boots. I usually have a movie on while I'm doing the boots, so it kind of keeps me occupied that way. Yep, so that's it. I'll just do an edging on these boots to really clean them up, and they are done.